All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first of many pretty well, no, I've already messed up the whole thing. Let me let me fix my thing and then okay, cool. All right, everyone. Hi. Welcome to the first of many technical type videos we'll be doing in this class. So this is in Autodesk Maya, which is the first program we're going to be using in this class, and probably the bulk of the work of this class will be in this program. If you're not familiar, Maya is the industry standard currently for making 3D modeling, 3D models. It has all sorts of different options as well for animation. We're not going to touch on that in this class, though. We're already trying to squeeze, too much content into 10 weeks. So we're just going to focus on mostly the modeling, some of the other features in Maya. All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the interface of how Maya works, just in a broad sense. So when you open up Maya, this is probably what you're going to see. We have several things on the screen. We have the viewport here. This is where actual the modeling will take place. All like the objects you're performing operations on, that sort of thing, is all in here. You notice it takes up the bulk of the screen. So some of the other interface stuff is going to be, this is pretty standard stuff up here. You got your file menu. That's where you save stuff. You can edit things. We have all sorts of different options up here. This is various tools you can do for your 3D models. We're not going to touch on too many of them, but as you can see, there's lots of different options. Below that, this is additional pretty advanced stuff. Here, we're not going to talk about too much. The only thing you really need to worry about in this row is just the save icon here. Okay, that floppy disk thing. That's where you save your scene. This thing here, this allows you to open up new files. Right, and if you're confused about, you can see these tooltips popping up as I hover over things. If you're confused about what things do, you can see that the tooltips come up when you hover over basically anything in Maya. That same information is located down here in the bottom left. So if you notice when I hover over this cube thing, it says polygon cube, create a polygonal cube on the grid. So if you're confused about what anything does, that gives you a little bit of a hint. Obviously, it's not going to tell you everything about it. There is Maya documentation online, and like thousands of tutorials, in addition to all the stuff I'm going to tell you also. Yeah, you should be able to figure out what most things do. And again, like I understand, there's about 1,000 buttons on the shelf, right? We're not going to use most of them, at least in this class. So yeah, try not to get too overwhelmed. Okay, so where was I? I'm talking about this stuff here. You'll notice we're in the modeling mode. This is the mode you're going to be in most of the time in Maya. But as I said, there's rigging, there's animation, there's all sorts of different options up here. And if you notice, I changed this to rigging. It changes all the tabs up here. So there's, in addition, just many different options. But just try to focus on the modeling one for this class. Cool. All right. So when we're on the modeling thing, we can see this is called the shelf, this area here. So if I ever say the word shelf, that's what I'm talking about. This has, again, many different options here. This is another thing. See, we're in rigging, we're in animation, we're in rendering. We're gonna be doing poly modeling in this class almost exclusively. So this is the shelf you're gonna be into. You'll be using. So, and you can see when we do that, it changes all the options here. So look at all these options. Pretty neat. Cool. So these are various operations you can do. I'll talk about some of those in a bit. The main thing, not the main thing, but one of the big things you're going to want to know how to do is navigate the viewport. So we can see this is the grid, and this is like a 3D space. It's kind of hard to visualize without a cube or any sort of thing in it. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to make a primitive. A primitive is just like a basic shape, right? So you can do that. I'm going to do it by just clicking the polygon cube button up here. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. If you shift to right click, you can also, that brings up a menu where you can bring up stuff. But, okay, here's a cube. I'm actually in the wrong mode here. All right, cool. So now you can see in the viewport we have a cube. I'm going to talk about how we can look at that cube in different angles and that sort of thing, because you're gonna, obviously a cube's not too complex, but if you have a pretty complex asset in here, you're going to want to look at it and look under it, look at all these different angles, try to get look at specific facets of it. So navigating the viewport is super key. So again, I think I mentioned this in one of the other videos, but main thing you're going to need to do is understand the wow. Okay. So I think I mentioned this in another video. What I'm trying to say is that you need a 3-button mouse for this class, or a drawing tablet, anything like that. Otherwise, it's just really, really hard. If you try to use this program with a trackpad, you're going to have a bad time. But okay, so the reason you need that is so you can navigate this viewport. So let's take a look. So right now, I'm just using the scroll wheel to scroll in and out. That's pretty standard. I'm zooming, right? But in order to change the angle, look at these things, there's a couple different shortcuts. These all involve using the Alt key or Option if you're on Mac. I'm on Windows. So I'm going to hold Alt, and then if I left click, this allows me to rotate the camera, right? So now I'm looking, I can look at all the different angles like that. If I hold Alt and I press the middle mouse button, so that's the scroll wheel, if I press down on it, you can pan the camera, okay? And then if you hold Alt or Option and use the right mouse button, that is another alternate way to zoom. So those are the main things you're going to be using. You can use these in all sorts of combinations to look at the cube or your asset in all sorts of different ways. So that's pretty important. Okay, cool. So now that we have a cube, we can talk about some of these other tools over here. So this one here is the select tool. So that allows you to select things, right? So I click on this. Now I have the cube. I'm looking at the cube. This is another type of a selection. This is the lasso select. So you can drag a thing. This here is a paint. We're not going to use that, but that's also another type of selection you can do. So the main ones you're going to worry about are the selection here, the movement here, the rotation, and scale. I think I moved the. Okay. I'm actually going to make a new cube because I think I messed something up on this one just a second ago. So let me delete this cube. Okay, make a new cube. There it is. All right, so you're also going to need to be moving things around, rotating, changing the size of things. Right? Imagine you're sculpting something. That's not sculpting. 3D sculpting is a different thing, but it's kind of like a metaphor we can talk about. So you're going to need to move things around. You need to change the shape of things. So to do that, you select something, and then you see these three. You have these three options over here. You got the Move tool, the Rotate tool, and the Scale tool. But in this class, and just in general practice, you're not going to want to use the buttons over here to access these because it's just too slow. So there's shortcuts for each of these. If I have this selected, I hit W. You can see that highlights the Move tool over here. And that brings up this gizmo that allows me to move the thing around. I can move it up in the Y direction here. In the, which direction is this? This is the Z direction and the X direction here. Okay? You can also move in a camera-dependent way if you grab the middle one. So basically what that does is it moves it in all three directions. This is pretty inaccurate. I mean, you can wind up moving it in all sorts of weird ways. Like if I do it over here, I don't know. The cube can wind up in places you don't really want it to be. So I don't know. I wouldn't super recommend that one, but these things are very useful. This allows you to move it in two directions. So we can see here, I can do this and it'll stay on the plane. That's a little easier with the grid. So if I do this, right, it's not moving up at all, but it's moving in these two. Same thing here for those two axes. This one for those two axes. Super useful stuff. Okay, so that's W. And the shortcut for selecting is Q. So Q select, W move. If you keep moving down that same line on the keyboard, E is the rotate tool. So look at this. This allows me to rotate the object, right? So each of these circle things allows me to move it rotate it in one of those axes, right? So look at that. I moved it on that axis, this one on that axis, on the x-axis, and this one's on the y-axis. You can also, this is another camera-dependent thing. Again, I don't really use that very often. You probably won't either. And then the last thing you can do is scale. So we have Q select, W move. E, rotate, R, scale. So obviously, those don't map super well. You can think of scale as resize, if that helps you remind you that R is scale. But if we look at this, this allows you to change the size, right? So now this is how you can start really like changing the shape of something. You can resize it in all the different directions. Look at that. I wind up with a like big Xbox Series X type thing, right? You can also resize uniformly by using the one in the middle. So you see that it's not changing like the like ratio of it all, right? So this thing's still a cube. It's doing it all uniform. So those you need to definitely get good at those. Q, W, E, R. Those are big. Okay, cool. So we've talked about that. This is something that, sorry, I want to go back. I should have thought a little better about how I would organize this video. But you'll notice right now that I'm in Maya Classic. So this is the workspace. This is like basically preset UI configurations. In this class, we're always going to be using modeling standard. And the reason that is because it focuses primarily on modeling, right? So if we look at this, there's all this. We have a bunch more real estate here. The viewport's gotten bigger. That's because we've gotten rid of the timeline here, which is used for animation. Since we're not doing animation in this class, you don't need it. Going into modeling standard makes that a lot easier. It gives you a little more space to work with. Okay, cool. We're also gonna so returning to the viewport. We can. This isn't the only type of camera configuration you can take. So this is called the perspective view, right? So this whole thing, all the things we've been doing have been in perspective view. But if we look at these, there's a bunch of different options. This one here brings us into perspective view, but this one is the panel layout. So this is also called 4-up. We look at this because it's got four different panels. It provides different perspectives of views of our thing, right? So this one is the perspective view. This is an angle from the top. This is from the side, and this is from the front. So you can see this is it's obviously you can't tell when it's a cube, but when it's not a cube, you can see all these different angles. This is pretty important. It allows you to see a bunch of different angles. A lot of the time, you're going to want to do things like exactly from like the side, or from the top, that sort of thing. Going into these views is super useful for that. You can also go into a 2-panel sort of thing if you only want 2 of those views. Yeah, so those are the 3 main different viewport options. Most of the time you'll probably be in perspective view, but sometimes you might want to change. The final thing that's over here is the outliner. So if you're familiar with Unity, you're familiar with lots of different programs do something similar like this. It's called a hierarchy in a lot of programs. In this case, it's called the outliner. And what this is basically just like an index of all of the stuff that's in the scene. So in this case, we just have the cube. We also have the default stuff, but that's not important in this case. But you can see if I make a cylinder, let me move that out of the way. I can select the cube here. I can select the cylinder here. This is a good way to keep your scene organized. You can, if you have a bunch of different objects looking in here, this is this is how you can see how everything's grouped and available in the scene. Okay, so yeah, outliner, super important. Again, you access that by doing this, clicking the button right down there. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to work my way over to the right side of the screen, which also has some important stuff. So if the outliner is like the hierarchy in Unity, if you're familiar with Unity, the attribute editor over here is like, and the channel box is like the inspector in Unity, right? So this is how I can actually like change aspects of the object. So if I look at this cube, we can see it has a bunch of different attributes here that allow us to finely tune its scale, where it is in the scene, rotate it in more exact sense. You can also change a bunch of different things about it, but we're not going to get too much into that right now. And if you're in modeling standard, this area also provides you with the modeling toolkit. If you look at this, we're going to be in this menu all the time this quarter. This allows you to just give you quick access to a lot of the tools that we're going to be using to actually model. Cool. So those two prop up here. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about in this video is the final stuff up here. So if we go up here, you can see that this shows and hides the modeling toolkit. So if you accidentally lose the modeling toolkit, that's there. This here is the character controls. We're not going to talk about those in this class, but that's for rigging stuff. This is the attribute editor. This is tool settings. So for each of the tools in Maya, they all have like a specific, like, you can change settings on how they're used. We're not going to talk about that here. Finally, but the last thing I do want to talk about is the channel box. So if you click this one right here, that brings up the channel box and the layer editor. And this gives you quick access to the stuff I was talking about with the attributes. And also you can change specific things about objects here. You can see, like, I can change subdivisions on this, so that changes like the poly count. So we can see now this has a bunch of different subdivisions on it. And then this is also where we get access to layers. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, anything that uses layers, that's like that. This is like that, but in 3D. A lot of the time, you're going to want to organize things in different layers in order to, just organize your scene. Cool. So I know that was a lot. This video turned out longer than I had hoped, but that was hopefully a pretty comprehensive overview of the Maya interface and most of the stuff we're going to be doing in this class. Obviously, as we use each of these tools, I'm going to talk about how they're used within the context, and I'll review all this stuff as we go through. But I think it's good to just have a good foundation start in it. So thank you for listening, and I will see y'all in the next video.